Hey everyone, so for today's video, I'm going to be doing a review to episode 4 of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here 2025. So, at the end of the previous episode, we found out that it was going to be Eddie taking on this underwater challenge. But again, that will come later in the episode. At the beginning of episode 4, Ruby explained that she never dreamt that she was a fire starter, but she feels that she actually is, because I think at first she wasn't too sure how to do the fire and set the wood and the rest of it, but she did manage to do it, and she managed to do it very well. I think she got up quite early, did her meditation, and then just was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go. Kelly, Shona, and Alex all decided to go swimming, and very quickly noticed that they had leeches trying to follow them, trying to swim after them, and all very quickly jumped out of the pool. Shona actually fell, and the girls helped her up, and they had a little giggle. So it was a nice little girls' trip in the morning. So it's nice to see a little girls' group forming. I think in there, you kind of have to make friends quickly, and you kind of do have to bond with people because you're living away from home, you're living with limited rations and food, and you could have goodness knows what crawling all over you. So it's just nice to have people that have different strengths. So I guess for the girls, it's just nice to have your girls in there. So yeah, it was a nice little part of the show to see. Ruby was speaking to Ginge, H, and Lisa, saying, she put the rice on, but obviously it wasn't her responsibility to take it off of the fire, because I think basically at this point the rice had burnt. So they were all kind of not blaming Ruby, but kind of saying, well, look, you're the one that put it on, so you should have, kept an eye on it. So yeah, she wasn't very pleased with them kind of trying to attack her for that. Ginge explained that he was starving. He said that they should just put the food that Ruby had just made into a trial because that was absolutely difficult to eat. So again, another person not really a fan of her cooking. But I think it's that thing of, some people maybe are not cooks, or some people can't cook certain things, or maybe because there's so much pressure of cooking for 10 people, she just got a bit nervous and obviously didn't realise the fire was still on. Lisa was talking about her boob surgery, having that sort of, I don't know whether it was a reduction or whether she had some sort of issue going on. And Ruby explained that it's obviously, being in the jungle, it's nice not to look at yourself in the mirror. It's nice not to be able to see what you look like. Alex explained that in terms of her relationship with Jess, or Jessica, it was more of an emotional connection first, and then that physical attraction makes that better. So I guess the topics of conversation here are all about love and self-respect and how your body looks and how you look to the world and things like that. So I think Lisa went on a massive weight loss journey. Obviously Ruby just didn't like looking at herself, knowing obviously she's getting older. And then, yeah, with Alex, she said that in terms of finding her love, it was all about that emotional connection. Do we actually get on as people first, and then everything else, comes after that? Eddie explained he's not good at water parks. He's kind of heading to the unknown in terms of this trial that he was about to do. And basically what he had to do, literally, I mean, it's a lot more simple explaining it than actually probably him doing it. But it was like a massive fish tank. He had 10 keys with 10 different shapes hanging on kind of like rock hooks. He had to just grab one key, swim under the water, unlock the chest with that shape on it, and then inside the chest would be a star. The only difficult thing was obviously getting your breath, swimming all the way down to the bottom as if you were like a mermaid or something. And then obviously he was surrounded by like other fish and snakes and lizards and goodness knows whatever else water species of stuff. So yeah, a few times he lost his breath, a few times he dropped the keys, so that obviously made it difficult for him because he would drop a key and then he'd have to decide, right, do I go and grab that key or do I just move on to the next one? And obviously then Ant and Dec were doing him a countdown and he couldn't hear because he was under the water. But he did actually kind of do all right. I think, yeah, even he mentioned it at the end that he just got so out of breath and he got so distracted of the fact of him dropping those keys. He didn't know whether to go back and get them or just move on. He got 6 out of 10. He did drop 3 keys, but he still actually did really, really well. And then for some reason they were all practicing football training, or the kind of what's onside, what's offside. So I think it was kind of Ginge that led this. So he just kind of put their like drinking bottles in certain positions and just said, look, if I was this player, would I be onside or offside? I think Alex got involved as well. So yeah, that was quite a good way to make time go by, but a good little, understanding of how football works, basically, because you obviously had Ginge, who loves football, and you had Alex, who's an ex-Lioness, so it's good to have a bit of a mix in there. So when Eddie came back, he kind of had a little bit of a disappointed look on his face, and he said to the other campmates, he said, look, I'm not acting, I'm so disappointed. Explained the trial and how difficult it was, and they all just said, look, you did really, really well, so that's absolutely fine. Alex explained that both Ginger and Ruby had set the bar really, really high, and that Eddie actually did do them really, really proud. For the next trial, it was going to be called Camp Fright, where 3 celebrities were going to be tied in knots. So it was up to just, the public to decide which 3 campmates they wanted to take part in that. Lisa explained that she had been cold turkey sober for so many years now so far. I think alcohol and cigarettes were the 2 that she'd obviously mentioned here. And Ginge basically explained that Lisa had basically named herself as an alcoholic, saying that obviously at that time she felt like she needed to drink. So he was like, well, you basically just called yourself an alcoholic, but obviously it's good that, you've gone on this journey to self-progress and feel good about yourself at the same time. Jack said that a lot of British people question why other people don't drink, and actually this was a really, really interesting point, because he basically just said, if you're British and you go out, everyone expects you to drink, everyone expects you to, be like the lead centre of attention at a party and things like that, and that if you don't drink, or if you're drinking water or soft drinks, you're seen as like boring. So yeah, that was a interesting, relatable thing, because obviously it's similar to the UK. You get people that always want to go out and get drunk, but then those that don't drink are always called boring, when actually they're not boring, they're just in their senses and probably saving a lot of money. Ginge basically said he's got personality without alcohol, that's why he doesn't drink. And Jack explained that he feels like in the jungle a lot of strangers have been thrown together and they actually have a lot more in common than what he thought they were going to. And Ginge also explained that he enjoys being sober and having that sort of addiction. It's kind of almost like a trauma response. I'm not sure if it was Jack or Ginge that said that, but having that addiction to something is almost like to deal with something bad from the past. It's your way of dealing with it, basically. So that's kind of what he referred to that as. I think it was Jack, actually. Ruby explained to Lisa that H looked like a young version of Boy George. Jack explained that his grandfather was actually a music executive. He only managed black artists, and obviously didn't decide to manage the Beatles, who ended up blowing up. So that was a massive mistake on Grandad's part. And Jack kind of mentioned about his dad that, Ozzy Osbourne in one of his meetings decided to bite the head of a dove. And there was a female executive who got absolutely confused by that, and they kind of, that story went viral, and they didn't get whatever marketing deal or conversation that was discussed, but it ended up going viral and that song ended up blowing up. So I think, something that didn't necessarily need to get into the news, or something that got into the news for all the wrong reasons, actually still ended up blowing up and ended up helping him blow up his career. So yeah, he was just probably quite a strange man, and Jack's probably got quite a lot of interesting stories about his dad, but he's obviously not going to share them all. And if he ever has kids, if he doesn't already have, or if the kids have kids, he can say the grandfather was Ozzy Osbourne, a massive rock star from the past, but maybe not tell all the stories of the past, or maybe keep that to private lives. Ginge asked if people read, whether they read books or not, and then we got onto the topic of conversation that Martin had actually had 2 tumours removed from his head, and it actually ended up making him dyslexic. For dinner, they had eel, Gaia, and green zapotai for dessert. Absolutely no idea what any of that is, apart from the eel, obviously. And Jack asked Kelly whether she needed any help skinning it. Martin explained it's better to fry it than to boil it. Ruby said that she finds eels absolutely repulsive. And again, I think at this point, Jack was trying to get involved, and Kelly kind of wasn't sure whether to let him get involved, but she ended up letting him get involved, and he basically took over, and she kind of just sat there and watched. And then for the trial, we found out it was either going to be H, Ginge, or Kelly, but all 3 of them were going to be taking part, and everyone else was going to be coming to watch. But what the campmates didn't know is that 2 new arrivals would be on the way into camp. The likes of Vogue Williams, who explained that she was nervous and excited, and Tom Reed Wilson from Celebs Go Dating, who wanted to inspire a competitive spirit within the jungle. And again, I think he's a writer and a reader and an influencer and the rest of it as well. So yeah, 2 very interesting and 2 very vocal campmates. I haven't seen much of Vogue Williams. I know she's got a podcast, I know she's got a husband and kids and the rest of it. Tom Reed Wilson, hence the word read, is a reader, a writer, and philosopher, and probably the rest of it. But yeah, like I said, don't really know much about them, but yeah, at the end of episode 4, we found out that they were both going in. So yeah, let's see what happens in episode 5, and let's see how they get on with the rest of the 10 campmates. Anyway, hope you enjoyed episode 4. Don't forget to like and share.